Hello and welcome to Barbara's podcast. This is the show for women, all about health, nutrition, and wellness. It's the show that will empower you and inspire you to create a healthier lifestyle.
Hello and welcome. I'm Barbara Karafocus, and I'm excited to introduce Kerry Tuschhoff, who is a certified hypnotherapist, childbirth educator, hypnodoula, and the director of Hypnobabies. So welcome, Kerry.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
It's my pleasure. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became interested in hypnosis for childbirth?
Yes. After I was married many long years ago, a friend of ours gave birth, and she had the baby naturally. And she said it was very painful, but she was telling me all about it. And I didn't even know people did that. I thought you just went in, you got your epidural, and, that was a thing for everybody. But anyway, I became fascinated. I did a lot of research about natural childbirth, and I just got bitten by the birth bug. And I became a Bradley natural childbirth instructor. And the Bradley method is, one of the childbirth methods here in the U.S.
Yes.
And I got a wonderful education in, nutrition and exercise, staying healthy and low risk, and deep relaxation, and all of the stages of birthing, and it was just marvelous. And so I began teaching it, and I thought I knew everything about having a baby. Then I had a baby. Then I went into labor with my own, and she was posterior, so she was turned around. Our little head was squishing the nerves in my back, and it was the most painful thing. I was just screaming. And so I had planned on having a water birth at a birth center, and I ended up being wheelchaired across the road to the hospital, screaming, having an epidural at 26 hours in. And then maybe 8 hours later, the baby was pushed and pulled out of me because I had an epidural, so I couldn't push. And I was traumatized by the amount of pain and also basically losing my birth dream of having a natural water birth at a birth center, that sort of thing. And 4 years almost to the day of giving birth to that child, I had my son, and his birth was only 7 hours long. It was at a birth center, but it was so painful because he, again, was posterior. Must be something in my pelvis that makes these babies posterior. And I was just screaming my head off. And I realized during that time that there had to be another way, even if I never had another baby. And I didn't. For my students who I had been teaching for a couple of years, and they were all attempting to do natural childbirth. Many of them did not make it because it hurt so badly, and we didn't really have any great tools, but I knew there had to be a way that people could do this in a much easier way. So I just set off on a quest to find what that was. And I found hypnosis for childbirth. And then I found a regular hypnobirth program and went and got trained there, thinking that was it. But I was also a doula. And so when I would attend these births, because there was so little hypno in the birthing, it just didn't, they were all screaming just like me. So that wasn't it. So I went on, and that was it for me. I just took a ton of courses and classes on hypnosis and hypnotherapy and hypnoanesthesia. And, and then I found Gerald Kine's Painless Childbirth Program, which was created by a master hypnotist, Jerry. And it was all about, specifically hypnoanesthesia for childbirth. And after I took it, it filled in the gaps. and of what I wanted to do. And I asked him, could I create a childbirth education program using those techniques? And he said, yes, I can't wait to see what you create. And that was almost 23 years ago now. And the rest is history because, people are doing Hypnobabies all over the world. And the point is not to have a pain-free birth. The point is to have the best birthing you can have with extra tools than breathing and relaxation. And these tools are pretty amazing. People don't realize that there are humans out there who are allergic to medical anesthetics.
Yeah.
And so they work with a hypnotherapist ahead of time, and they are able to basically retrain their inner mind that all of those sensations they're going to be feeling during surgery have good feelings to them. They're reprogramming, if you will, that part of their brain so that when they have that surgery, they have no medical anesthetics. They're only using hypnosis. And basically that's what I was looking for. So when Hypnobabies, the program that I created, is learned, used, and practiced, as directed, the way that we know that it works, it's pretty amazing how people can get through it, childbirth, so much easier, and also look forward to their birthing. So during pregnancy, things begin to change for them emotionally, and they're really anticipating a great birth and a great postpartum.
Rather than a traumatic birth, which I've met so many women that have gone through the trauma of childbirth, whereas it shouldn't be. Myself included, my daughter was breech, and so I had an emergency C-section, and my birthing plan went to pieces as well, and you're left with a disappointment.
Yes.
'Cause I also wanted a water birth, and had it all planned out, and you're left with something not quite as as what you had imagined.
Exactly. And I have a big heart for people who had a traumatic birth, and there are so many. And sometimes it is not a matter of your babies being posterior or breech. It's how you are treated during childbirth by the medical team that you basically hired to help you through this process.
Yeah.
And because they are focused on their own agendas, which is saving time and making more money and, avoiding litigation and things like that, then they manage births in a way that does not really help you to have the kind of birthing that you wanted to have. And that doesn't mean that they don't care and that they're evil people. It's just they have their own agendas. So sometimes coming out of a birthing like that, where you're managed through the whole thing, you are even yelled at or, made to do things that do not feel right at all, or your baby is taken away afterwards, and not for medical reasons, but just because that's what we do here in this hospital, it can traumatize people. And my heart hurts every time I hear a story like that.
Well, tell us a little bit more about Hypnobabies, or the childbirth with hypnosis. How does it differ from other childbirths, or other methods?
Well, instead of just teaching breathing methods or deep relaxation, those are integrated into our hypnosis sessions. So we're basically, first of all, Hypnobabies is a complete childbirth education program, and that's important because getting your childbirth education from one course and your hypnobirthing from another course, kind of is overwhelming to the conscious mind and the subconscious mind of trying to integrate all of those things together. So Hypnobabies is a complete childbirth education program, but instead of just teaching breathing or relaxation, all of which are great in other programs, we teach them self-hypnosis. There are 21 tracks in our Hypnobabies program, so they start out, listening to some of the lighter tracks that help to deprogram them from, the mental stories and the stories they hear about childbirth being a difficult thing, a scary thing, a fearful thing. And so they start out with that, and then they move into the real thing, the real deal. And that is learning hypnoanesthesia. And so each track that they listen to on a schedule throughout the course brings them a little bit farther and a little bit farther into the subconscious mind, and with the new techniques and deeper hypnosis. It's called somnambulism. And in the state of somnambulism, you can create hypnoanesthesia. So the goal is to get into somnambulism and then basically retrain the inner mind to accept these suggestions that the birthing is going to be much easier, that the sensations that they will feel are still there, pushing, pulling, tightening, stretching feelings, baby movements, but without all the discomfort associated with the normal things that we might think about childbirth. And so as they're going along, it starts taking the fear out of it for them, because they're listening to these messages about how much easier it's going to be for them. So their pregnancy becomes more pleasant. And if you can try and imagine that there are levels of the mind, so the conscious level is up here, and that's what we're using right now. As we're watching, as we're listening, as we're deciding what we think on a conscious level about what we're seeing and hearing, that's here. And then down here is the subconscious mind, and it is way down in there. And it's very much like a 5-year-old child, where if you tell them something, they go, oh, it does not have a way to determine the difference between what we're telling it on a subconscious level and what is real. So it thinks everything is real.
Yeah.
In between these two levels is the critical faculty. And it's like the guardian that decides what gets in. It's a filter. So what we do in hypnosis is we relax the conscious mind, we relax the critical faculty, and we make it go take a nap.
Okay.
So that then we can go down and get into the subconscious mind and basically give it new files. So new software. And it's got a ton of software in there. Things we've heard and seen and experienced all our lives are in there, down in there. So what we're doing is we're not taking anything out, but we are putting in a new belief system about childbirth at a level where it experiences it as, oh, okay. And then it creates a new file. And in doing that, then once we have done that on a daily basis for about 2 months, it's in there. And when we get into our birthing time, which is what we call labor, then we activate all those cues. They're post-hypnotic cues. So in our tracks, it has said, when you use the word peace, when your birth partner puts his hand on your shoulder, if you use the word release, certain things will happen. You will enter hypnosis. You will go deeper. You will spread hypnoanesthesia around the body, those sorts of things. And as soon as they use those cues, either mentally or by somebody saying, and maybe it's their birth partner or their doula, boom, it's activated. And they can have that effect right in their birthing time. And it really, really helps them to have a much, much easier birthing.
That is very, very interesting when you think about the power of the mind and what you can achieve with it.
Well, hypnosis can do so many things. People think of hypnosis as, maybe at least in the US, stage hypnosis, where people are picked out of a crowd by a very skilled hypnotist who sees that they want to play along. And they go up on stage and they are made, they think, or other people think, to quack like a duck or sing like Elvis or whatever. And it's a game, it's a show, and it's a lot of fun. But therapeutic hypnosis is like what I just explained, where you're making the critical faculty take a nap, we're accessing the subconscious mind, and we're basically retraining it. And we can retrain it for different things. We have tracks in Hypnobabies on our store that help you to release the fear of childbirth. We have a track that releases the fear of needles. We have a track that eliminates nausea, one that eliminates insomnia during pregnancy, and so forth and so on. So hypnosis, when we get to that level and we're retraining that subconscious mind, can do so many things for us. It can get to the root of things that happened a long time ago and help us to reframe them and build a bridge to moving forward in our lives. And that's an amazing gift. So therapeutic hypnosis is really nothing like most people think.
Yeah. Is the reframing done through affirmations?
We do have affirmations, but the reframing is done through hypnosis, but also, so that's from the inside out.
Yeah.
Hypnobabies has a joyful pregnancy affirmations track that they listen to every single day as well, with 150 affirmations on them about starting with, their pregnancy and how great they feel about their body and how well they eat for their baby, and how then it moves into their looking forward to their birthing and how great that's going to be, and it just affirms and affirms and affirms what their goal is, to help them reach their goal. And that helps them from the outside in, because pregnant women are bombarded with negativity, shall we say?
Yes.
From other people, either, unwittingly. I mean, obviously they don't mean to, but they'll come up and tell you birth stories, their birth story, somebody else's birth story, or our moms now are reading birth stories online. And so it's very fearful. And so the affirmations help them to remember, oh, this is what we're doing, and this is what we're planning, and this is what our birth goal is, and it's going to be great. And so from the outside in and the inside out, they're able to reframe and retrain.
Can women include their partners in the Hypnobabies?
Well, Hypnobabies can be used anyway, basically. Yeah. We do have a lot for the birth partner to do. We hope that they will, learn the program with the mom, but some don't. And then there's a whole birth partners section that helps them to understand certain things, what their role is during the pregnancy and during the birthing, and how to help the mom during the birthing to the greatest extent. We call them the Hypno Guardian.
I like that.
Now, yeah. But if the mom doesn't have a partner, or their partner would rather not participate, then Hypnobabies is set up that she can do it all by herself, because as she retrains that subconscious mind with those cues, with those post-hypnotic messages and suggestions, we call them, then she can use those cues in her mind or say them out loud during her birthing, and they will activate them the same as if she had a birth partner who was, giving her what we call birth prompts that activate the cues. So either way, with a birth partner and not with a birth partner. But if you choose a birth partner, there's lots for them to do and learn.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to hear that, that they can be included, because nowadays I think there's quite a few partners that would like to be included in the childbirth, rather than being excluded from it,
Yes.
So it's wonderful to hear that they can join and support. Are there any other research studies done on hypnosis and childbirth that support it, and what do they show regarding?
I'm glad you asked that, because there have been very few studies that have been done about hypnosis for childbirth, but the ones that were done were done like this. They have two groups of moms. One group gets nothing, but maybe some relaxation exercises to do in preparation for birthing. The other one gets one audio tape of hypnosis, and then we compare the results. And that is not a thing. Yeah. That's not hypnosis for childbirth. So they couldn't possibly be actually studying hypnosis for childbirth, because it's much more, I don't want to say work, it's much more a labor of love to listen to tracks every single day that build upon one another and really, really get into the subconscious mind and retrain it for specific things. Like when your water breaks, you know, you will go even deeper into relaxation. You will feel even better, even more physical comfort, even more emotional confidence, that sort of thing, like it's built into Hypnobabies. So giving them one audio track to listen to, that's
more than enough.
I don't want to say useless, but I'm just saying that if we want to study hypnosis for childbirth, then study it. You know, really, really give them something to work with, like Hypnobabies.
To go into depth. Yeah. Well, in closing, so what advice would you give to women who are considering using Hypnobabies for their childbirth experience?
Well, I think it's the most important thing is to determine what it is that you want. So many people right now are thinking in their mind, well, I'm just going to go in, at least in the US, I'm just going to go in it with the first contraction and have an epidural. But they're not looking into anything else. How could it be different? You know, they're not even researching the effects of the epidural and how it can change things once you get in there. You know, that it can, you know, lower your blood pressure. It can alter the contractions so that you then have to have them augmented or sped up with another drug like Pitocin. And then that changes the birthing as well, because now we have to have an IV that has other things in it that do affect the birthing. And this is oftentimes where we get our domino effect that, you know, we have now going on that has created a 32% cesarean rate in the United States of America and other places as well, because we messed with a perfectly normal labor. So my suggestion is, you know, research what you really want and research the effects of what you really want on your body, and just know that there's a different way. And if you do choose to go with Hypnobabies or any other hypnobirthing program, just know that you need to believe in it and throw yourself into it and dedicate yourself to whatever it takes to make your birthing easier.
Yeah. I'd also read that with regards to the having anesthesia, that it can also cause breathing difficulties in the babies if it's not done quick enough. And
well, epidural's not as much in that regard, but other drugs, yes. There are other drugs that do depress the baby's respiratory abilities when they are born. And I think fewer people are choosing those, you know, Demerol, Stadol, things like that. And there are other drugs which, when they're given, especially too close to the baby's birth, their baby is full of them. They don't have time to work out that medication, and it affects them quite severely. So with the epidural, it affects the mother so much that it can affect the baby. If it's going to lower the mother's blood pressure, that is going to affect how the baby receives oxygen. Yeah. So oftentimes the mothers get what's called epidural fever as well. And so then the baby is subject to a whole blood workup. And sometimes that includes a spinal tap at birth, which we don't even want to talk about. No. So people need to really research all of these things. I will say that I had an epidural with my first birthing. I went over to the hospital. I had that epidural. And for 3 years, I had pains shooting up and down my back and into my neck and head and jaw and from the epidural site. And nobody tells you that. So
that could happen. Well, yeah.
So people just need to really be smart, look into whatever it is they want. What are the effects of whatever it is that you want. And if you want a more natural birth, natural meaning unmedicated, what we call physiological, which means just let it flow along
Yes.
as it should, because nature has a plan. If anything goes wrong, you have a team of people there who can deal with emergencies, but let's don't create the emergencies by messing with a perfectly normal birthing.
Yes. Well, thank you, Kerry. I found it very, very interesting, and I'm sure a lot of our mums-to-be will love to listen to this podcast. They'll find it very, very interesting. If our listeners want to connect with you, how can they get in touch?
Well, we do have a website, hypnobabies.com. We have a store where our home study course and tracks are, which is hypnobabies-store.com. And if you want to email us about anything, it's info@hypnobabies.com. info@hypnobabies.com. And we will be happy to answer any questions you have. We also have a Facebook support group for Hypnobabies moms who are already doing Hypnobabies. But it's also for people who are pregnant who would like to learn more about Hypnobabies and read those wonderful birth stories that come through and be encouraged and decide if this is for them. And that's at hypnobabies-moms.com.
Well, thank you very much, Kerry. It was lovely having you on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Barbara, it was a lot of fun. And of course, I love talking about helping people have a better pregnancy, birth, and postpartum.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Barbara's podcast. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter or e-courses. Celebrate life, and see you at the next episode.